welcome back on this bitterly cold day. So today we're going to get real and we're going to talk about a subject that many people don't talk about. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Also, we're on verdict watch in the Aaron Dean Fort Worth Police Department case and closing arguments today in the Midwife case. So a lot to get to. Stay tuned. Everybody, Crafting Journey here, that Journey chick over on Instagram and on my second YouTube channel. I'm known as The Leftovers. The link to that is down in the description. Although I haven't put up a video in there in about a month, but I have been selling product like crazy. It's been a fabulous week in the eBay store. So let's chat, shall we? Welcome back to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily. Please don't forget to hit the like button today. Yes, and consider subscribing. It's free. I just passed 2,600 subscribers. I know, it's not much, but hey, each one of you matters to me, and I'm so appreciative to have you here. It's, what I do is unique. I'm crafting, I'm talking about crime. It's a very small niche, and I'm glad you found me. And I hope you enjoy the content. So this is where I talk about live trials that are going on, what are you doing, babe? On YouTube. Stitch is my co-host. He decided to join me today. Hi, buddy. Hi. It's cold outside. Yeah, it's cold outside, Mommy. So I just sit here in my little bed. I crocheted for him. Here you go. You can lay down in your bed. Yeah. Say, okay, I will. If you cover me up. There you go. Okay. So I did not go live last night, and I've been doing this Craft With Me Wednesday for probably close to 4 years now, and I rarely miss a night. But last night I couldn't muster the enthusiasm that I felt like it requires for me to do those lives. And here's why. I was puttering around the house yesterday, and my sister comes and she tells me, she says, you know what? I just heard Twitch died. Now, Twitch's real name is Stephen Boss. He's someone I have followed for many, many years. Back when he was on So You Think You Can Dance. And he tried out 3 times for that show. And finally made it on his 3rd try. Ended up being the runner-up. Came back for 3 seasons of All Stars. Just an amazing, incredible dancer. Then he went on in 2014 to marry Allison Holker, who was also a dancer on Dancing with the... she was on Dancing with the Stars, but she was also on So You Think You Can Dance. That's how they met. They had 2 beautiful children. She brought into the marriage a child from a previous relationship, so they were raising 3 children together. And he joined the show Ellen DeGeneres as her DJ, and then became executive producer after a while. So you may know him from one of those venues, but he came to be known as Twitch. And I loved that guy. I followed him for years. He had the biggest smile. And I'm talking about him in the past tense because we found out yesterday that he went to a motel about a mile from his home. He walked, apparently, left his car at home, goes to this motel, rents a room, and then shoots himself and kills himself. Suicide, which just astounds me. Absolutely astounds me, because this is probably the last person in the world you would think would do something like that. I mean, he seemed like he had the perfect life. He was happy. He was always dancing on Instagram. I loved to watch his dance. Him and Allison would always be dancing on Instagram. And it just really spooked me, I guess, because I go through these times, I also have depression, and I go through these times where, like last night, I just couldn't, I was so teary about Twitch. I know it's silly. I mean, but this one hit me. It just struck a nerve because he was only 40 years old, and you know, I guess you just never know what people are really going through on the inside. I've been struggling with some medication issues, and and yesterday I was dizzy, and it's just, you just don't know what people are going through. So be supportive. Reach out to your friends if you haven't heard from them in a while. Just talk to them and see what's going on with them, and encourage them. That if they're feeling down, you can get help. In my case, you'll get an appointment for 6 weeks after you actually need the appointment, because you don't have insurance. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about the trials, though. Let's get off the depressing part. So let's talk about the midwife trial. I'm listening to this wind howl. We walked this morning, and that wind was oh my gosh. It is really, really blowing. And it was already, in the 20s, and then the wind is blowing. I was freezing. But Stitch went with us today. He hasn't been going on the walk lately, but yesterday he went, or today he went. Usually he's kind of limited himself to just going around the block. And today he went on the entire walk, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, I not the entire walk. Usually I take the dogs a little bit farther when Stitch is not with us, because I don't want him to increase his territory any longer than he has. And I wasn't in for the long walk today because it was so cold. I had gloves on, hats, you saw me, puffy jacket, freezing. All right, so we're going to talk about this midwife case, Angela Hawk. Yesterday, everything wrapped up. But before it wrapped up, the prosecution put on their last witness, which was the medical examiner. I need to be doing some diamond painting while I'm talking to you. Yes, the medical examiner. He did an autopsy on the baby. And what I thought was interesting, because later on we're going to hear from Emily. No, the mom. Because I kept saying, oh, when is she going to take the stand? But anyway, we do hear from her. And one of the things she has to say is that this autopsy was forced on them. They didn't want an autopsy, but they were made to have an autopsy. That's what she said. So anyway, he does this autopsy. He says the cause of death was brain death. And this child was not born alive. This child was born brain dead. When the child actually was fully delivered, it was brain dead. And that's what he said. Now, when he was asked about manner of death, he says, I did not determine manner of death. He said it was in a coroner case. I don't determine manner of death. In a coroner case, I let the investigation proceed, and then the coroner can make that determination. I've never heard that kind of a thing. I guess he didn't want that responsibility of having to say whether it was because on a manner of death, you can only say a few things, natural death, homicide, suicide. But well, here's a question. Was this baby ever alive? It was born brain dead. And so the medical examiner goes on to say that this brain death was due to lack of oxygen. And this lack of oxygen, brain death will start at about 4 minutes. And we know that this went on for much, much longer than 4 minutes, way longer than 4 minutes. So that would account for the brain death. And he said it was not survivable. They tried to cool the baby. He said that was not going to work. This child was brain dead. So after that, the prosecution rests, and then the defense does a motion to dismiss, and they brought up that very question that I just asked: was this a live birth? Did she, she's this Angela Hawk is being charged with child abuse resulting in death, felony child abuse resulting in death. Was this a child? By definition. And then he started to talk about legislative intent, and he got into all kinds of things. And in any case, it really raises some very interesting questions. And it all goes back to the abortion debate. When does life begin? So the judge listened. This is a bench trial, by the way. I have to remind you, there's no jury. So he listened, and the prosecution had a chance to argue a little bit. And she actually put out a definition for a child. And the judge denied the motion to dismiss. So then the defense put on their case. Angela Hawk did not take the stand, but they played a recording of Emily No. She was interviewed by a female Omaha Police Department employee. A sweet woman, just very compassionate. But it was clear to me that Emily was running the show here. She described going into labor, her water breaking. She wasn't having contractions at the time. She called the midwife. She called Angela. She told her, she said, call me back when your contractions are getting stronger, closer together. She said, I'm not having contractions. So she called her husband. He came home from work. They actually decided they were going to clean house. So she's like, I never had the nesting thing. So my house was a mess, and I knew this midwife and doula were coming over with her child, and I decided I'd clean house. So then they cleaned the house. Then they had friends come over, bring her some ice cream, and she said we were up all night. But she does call the midwife back later to tell her, yeah, I'm having contractions now, but they're pretty far apart. So, and she mentioned she doesn't know how to time contractions. I don't know how to time contractions. I don't know how far apart they really were, but they were pretty good length of time between them. And so she didn't get any sleep that night. But Angela, the midwife, said, I'll be there first thing in the morning. And she actually got there about 5 in the morning, her and the doula. I'm not doing any crafting here. Oh, goodness. Probably because I don't have the light pad on. There we go. That's a little better. I have not been working on this because it's so cold here in this craft room. And it, like I said, has been freezing. I've got the heater on right now, and I've got my cup of coffee. But I've been doing a puzzle. My sister and I have been puzzling. We've already done one Christmas puzzle. We're on Christmas puzzle number 2. I don't even have any wax in this pen. Okay. All right. We're not going to do this. So anyway, back to the midwife case. So Emily describes that when she gets there in the morning, she's laboring all day, that she, set up the midwife and the doula in the guest bedroom. And, it was about 5 p.m.-ish when Angela, and she was asked about internal examinations. Did Angela conduct any internal examinations? She said, no, I would not allow her to. I didn't want that. I just wanted to let everything happen the way it was supposed to happen. I didn't need anybody going up in there. So she later on did agree to an examination, and when Angela examined her around 5 o'clock, that's what she noticed, this breech presentation. And she talked to Emily and Emily's husband, and they talked together, and they made the decision to just keep going with the delivery. They did not feel like it was an emergency. She did ask her husband to go pack a bag. Go pack a bag in case, we need to go to the hospital. So he was going to pack a bag. And then about 45 minutes after they first identify the toes, she tells everyone she's got to go to the bathroom. And she said, Angela told me, this could be, if you're feeling this urge to go to the bathroom, this could be the baby coming out. And she's like, yeah, I know, but I need to go to the bathroom. So Angela was trying to, tell her this is probably pushing, so she says, truthfully, I needed to go in that bathroom and just kind of collect myself. But when she gets in there, now she realizes, oh God, Angela was right. Here comes the baby. So she actually delivers the baby from the waist down, and yesterday I said I was confused about whether the arms were up. Apparently they were up with the head. So she said that things got pretty chaotic after that, and 911 was called. Next thing I know, there's all these men standing around me, these paramedics and EMTs, and she says they did not appear to have a clue about what they were doing. Not a clue. They didn't have the proper equipment. They didn't, and she was pretty adamant about that. It was clear that she trusted Angela Hawk implicitly, and she had complete faith in her. And she said, yes, she attempted episiotomy, and it was not successful. It was a very small incision, and she was, things were just too tight. She couldn't do it. And she described how once she got into the ambulance, they helped her push the baby out finally. How she refused an IV. She talked about her PTSD, something she said she had since she was a small child. She doesn't know what triggered it, but anytime she gets into a hospital setting, she has these panic attacks. Interestingly enough, though, when she gets to this hospital and, she's got to deliver the placenta, and then she stays with her child for a few days before they take her off life support, we don't hear anything about panic attacks at this point. So she did mention that her next deliveries would be in a hospital, because she's clearly, I'm not meant to have home births, because with both births, the child just did not want to come out naturally the way it should. And so there's something wrong with my body. And we know that she has had 2 children since then. I'm assuming in a hospital setting, because Angela's been in jail. So not with the use. Oh, what was that? Oh my goodness. I don't know what that was. Okay, that was weird. We are on verdict watch in the Aaron Dean case, but we'll get to that. So after they play this recording of Emily, also during this recording, the officer says, do you have any questions? And she did question her about whether Angela had come to the hospital to visit them, and she said no, she did not. She said she had car trouble. Angela didn't want to be near that hospital, I guarantee you. That she had spoken to her after the birth. They text each other, they call each other. It was very clear that she is not blaming Angela for what happened. She is not. Then the police officer told her, well, you can't have any contact with her. Don't contact her. No more texting, no more phone calls. I mean, she was nice about it, but she said, you just can't. And she's like, what's going to happen? And she's like, I don't know. And she was being very coy about the whole thing. But this is serious, I wish we had seen Angela or Emily in person so we could ask her, do you feel like you were coerced? Do you feel like she misrepresented her credentials to you? I get the sense that these parents are fully behind Angela Hawk, And anyway, so after that, the defense rests. So the judge who's going to be making the decision had them come back first thing this morning. So as I'm speaking now, their closing arguments are going on. Now, I don't know how quickly the judge is going to come back with his decision. The last time I saw a murder trial that was a bench trial, the judge took, a couple of weeks before, and he came back with a not guilty verdict. So that was over in Missouri. So I don't know how long he's going to, because he's probably going to want to write a decision. I don't know if he's just going to come back and say guilty, not guilty. I don't know. I really don't. I'm so curious. And I do want to listen to those closing arguments. So let me get a cup of coffee. Let me have a sip of coffee. I got my kitty cat mug. I don't know if you guys can see. Ow, it's hot. It's a kitty cat. Yeah, the bottom of this mug is really, I've got it on the warmer over here. I'll burn myself. Anyway, it's not not third or fourth degree. All right, let's talk about the former Fort Worth police officer who killed 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson in her home where she was defending her nephew, Zion. So yesterday was the closing argument. So I listened to the closing arguments. The plaintiff, Aaron Dean's being charged with intentional murder. But the jury can also find him guilty of the lesser included offense of manslaughter. But if they find that this was self-defense or defense of someone else, meaning Officer Darch, they have to find him not guilty, including with the manslaughter. If the jury is going to believe that this is a self-defense or he was defending another person, they can say manslaughter. But here is the interesting thing. The prosecution argued that this was an accident is spilling your milk at breakfast. This was not an accident. This was murder. And here's what kind of swayed me a little bit. Up till now, I'm thinking, that this was reasonable. But then he talked about how after Officer Dean shoots Miss Jefferson, he doesn't talk about a gun. He doesn't mention a gun to his partner. They just run into the house. He goes into the bedroom. She takes the boy out of the bedroom. When he goes into the bedroom, he's not offering her assistance. The first thing he's done, and he looks down at her feet, and he says, and this is on the body camera, "Looks like we have a weapon here." And then he takes a sigh of relief. So does this mean he didn't know for sure that there was a weapon there? That he really wasn't positive that this was a gun coming up, that it was something, but and that when he got into the house and he saw that there really was a gun, he was relieved? So was this self-defense? He said he was staring down the barrel of a gun. Was he? The jury is debating that. Now, the defense gets up and said, this was a tragedy. A tragedy. It is not a crime. It was a tragedy. This was self-defense. He was protecting himself. He was protecting Officer Darch. And if that's what you find, then you have to find him not guilty of murder and manslaughter or manslaughter. And that what's going on here with the prosecution is a lot of Monday morning quarterback. He should have stayed at the front door. He shouldn't go to the backyard. He shouldn't have announced himself. He should have done this. He should have done that. I agree, but I was so swayed by that one argument about finding the gun that I was like, So I think that the jury is going to be deliberating for a while. They started deliberating at 11:15. went until about 7 o'clock last night. So in excess of 7 hours yesterday. They resumed at 8 o'clock this morning, or 8:30. And so we're on verdict watch there. And they are sequestered until a verdict is reached in that case. Very interesting. So also, let's do this day in history. So one thing I wanted to talk about yesterday, I talked about Sandy Hook, and I have to make a correction. I said it was 20 years ago. It was 10. Listen, this is why I became an attorney, because I don't do math. I do not do math. I'm terrible at math. So I apologize for that. Anyway, on this day in 1988, legendary singer James Brown goes to prison in South Carolina. Now, he had been doing all these antics, up until this point, and he got himself on probation, and he violated his probation. Strangely enough, he walks into this insurance seminar armed with a shotgun and a pistol and tells everybody to leave the room. He orders everyone to leave. Then, when the police get there, he flees and leads them on a police chase. Now, there's some confliction about what instigated this police chase. According to James Brown, he was surrendering himself to a black officer when a bunch of white police officers pulled up and started smashing up his truck and pulling out their weapons. So he jumps in his truck and takes off. Not sure I believe that. Now, James Brown's wife said, listen, he was on some medication as a result of an injury, and he's just not been himself. Well, clearly not. Or was that him being himself? I don't know. But he's sentenced to 6 years and 6 months in jail. He serves 3 years of that, and then is released. Goes back on tour, and then later on is arrested for possession of marijuana, I think, or possession of drugs. Again, I think he was sentenced to a 90 days in a drug treatment program. He later died in December of 2006 at the age of 73. Oh my gosh, can you hear my washing machine going? Oh, I just realized I had to watch the dog sweaters this morning, and I put their new sweaters on. But you'll see those in tomorrow's video. I know, it's only Thursday. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun. All right, guys, that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed the content. I'm going to put up a verdict watch thumbnail for Aaron Dean, and then I will go live when there is a verdict. So you'll see the thumbnail, but I'll just keep changing the time until we actually get a verdict. So just kind of ignore that time, because it's just an estimate of, when I think they might be back. It just helps me to have the live set up ahead of time, so I can just jump in when the jury comes back. So that's that. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Don't forget the like button. Okay. And leave me a comment. Did you enjoy today's show? I hope so. Have a great Thursday, and I will see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Bye.